Hello, Crafty Crandall fam. Welcome to a super exciting, really festive video that I have planned for you today. I am going to show you how I custom make my holiday greeting cards with watercolor. I have a couple that I want to do kind of similarly, so I'm going to go through the process for one of them, and then the other one will basically be the exact same thing. And so without any further ado, let's jump into the creation of these holiday greeting cards. All right, so step one to card making is to choose your paper and to measure it, make sure that it is going to fit properly. To do this, I measure my envelope first. Whatever envelope you have on hand, you want to measure it, and then you want to measure your paper to fold into less than that measurement, basically, so that you know it'll fit. Now, you probably only want it to be slightly smaller than your envelope. In my case, because I already had paper that measured around like 9 by 6, I think it is, I didn't really have like the room on the top and bottom to make it an even amount. So, it was a little bit shorter than the width of the envelope, but the height was perfect. So I was fine with that. Next, I just taped down my card so that the flap that would be the front of the card was taped down onto my hard board, and then I obviously prepped my watercolors. In order to make this painting look really soft and subtle, I used the wet on wet technique to achieve like a really soft, just gradient almost of green for the tree. I started with just plain water. I had no outline or anything. I used plain water to make a tree shape. And then I used the paint after having mixed the specific greens that I would want to use and just dipped it lightly onto the paper. Now, I will say that you want to be careful here. You don't want to have too much water because that can incite some puddling and pooling of the pigments, and that doesn't look as good. You have to remember that when you're using the wet on wet technique, it's going to dry really, really softly. So you won't actually see all of the little granulating bits that you see when you are placing the paint into the water. It actually dries much softer and smoother than that, and that's why you use the wet on wet technique. I do just love the way that it looks like you're adding little snowflakes of green into the tree. I think it looks super cool, and so I just wanted to kind of demonstrate that here for you. Remember that I was doing 2 cards, and I actually had my other card that I was working on that is essentially the exact same design. I followed the exact same process because that card is going to a friend who, has very similar interests to the friend that this card is for. And so I used that card and actually ran into the puddling and pooling that I was talking about a little bit earlier. And so I just wanted to demonstrate what too much water looks like. And you really want to avoid this during the wet and wet technique. You want more of how the top of the tree is, not so much how the middle is here, how you can see the excess water. What you can do if you have that is just wait for the water to dry a little bit before starting to add the paint. In my case, I didn't do that. I still think it ended up fine, but all in all, it didn't look nearly as good as this card did. Next, I just add some texture to the background of the card by just tapping my brush with wet paint to cause kind of a splatter effect. I love the way that this looks, and I think this is just one of the benefits of using watercolor, that you can do this. Perhaps a better way to have done it would have been to use another paintbrush and tapped it against a paintbrush, because you'll just get a lot more splatter from having a hard surface to wrap your paintbrush on. But just tapping it with my finger, I achieved at least my desired result. I then went in and started to create my string of lights. I should mention that this essentially is a piece for a Blue October song called Sway, where one of the lyrics in that song is "Christmas lights all day." And so that kind of concept of Christmas lights all day is really what I wanted to depict in this card. And I highly encourage you to choose a concept if you are going to make a card like this. Your concept obviously doesn't have to be the same as mine. You can choose any concept at all. I often Google different like greeting card suggestions and follow either like the sayings from them or like follow the artwork and then apply my own saying to it so that I have a firm grounding in what I'm trying to achieve before I start. In my case, I wanted to have the winding Christmas lights all around the front of the card so that it kind of just went everywhere and displayed this concept, and also just took up a lot of the negative space of the card. While I think that negative space is super pretty and you can use it really effectively, I didn't want a lot of just like random negative space in this piece. I just wanted to have some Christmas lights all over, and so I just tried to make it look as cohesive as I could as far as how they wound through. And then I took a larger brush and dipped it into various colors to make my little light bulbs, if you will. This was super fun and it worked really well if you've got like a size 2 brush. I found that worked really well for the little individual Christmas lights, whereas I had used a liner brush to do the detailed little lines for the Christmas light wire. All in all, I was super happy with how this turned out. And although I think that gouache would actually have been better for the little bulbs to make them stand out even more, the watercolor did work fine because I applied it on a dry surface. I made sure to dry the tree out completely before going in with the lines, and then I did use the wet paint for the Christmas light bulbs on the wet kind of wire, if you will. But I was careful not to have it mix with the black of the wire. So just got to be careful with your placement here if you're going to do a similar type thing. I then went ahead and removed my tape because I wanted to have a border color in the space that the tape was taking up. You'll see on the left hand side, I actually drew a heart. That is for the logo of Blue October. I didn't depict me painting that heart because, to be honest, that is kind of a more specific element to my card that I don't think many other people would have in their card, and so I just didn't want to bother you guys with that. I think that you'd be more interested in what I'm doing with the actual Christmas portion of the card, and so that's why I left it out. I painted my border just freehand without any, lines or anything, and I think that it turned out pretty well. I will say that my tape did peel up just a little bit, so there was some texture on the border. This is something to be aware of. I use the MT masking tape, and I love this tape. And to be honest, I think it's more so because of the cheap paper that I'm using. I'm using the B watercolor paper, which is fine for cards and stuff, but not necessarily like the best quality paper on the planet. It's relatively inexpensive, and so I think the paper just didn't hold up to the tape very well. But regardless, just be aware of that. You might have a little bit of excess texture if you're going to use masking tape, and it should be fine. I then went ahead and did some hand lettering for the inside of the card because I love having a design on the inside of the card as well as the outside. You see that I am holding it here. That's because it actually wasn't completely dry yet, and so I didn't want to set it down just yet. Obviously, I would more so suggest, setting it down and drying it out completely, but I am terribly impatient, so I don't follow my own advice all of the time. The hand lettering aspects of this was so much fun. Again, I went back and used just that liner brush that I had before, and it was perfect for creating the words. I then just added a little Christmas star to kind of indicate, again, like a twinkling light, and had a lot of fun kind of filling it in, but not completely, to kind of add just like a little bit of twinkle to it in the negative white space that I left open on the star, and then just figured it would look kind of better if it had an outline or a shadow, like kind of like a drop shadow to it. So all in all, I think that the design elements of this card were super fun to do, and I would love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments if you agree, and also if you have any ideas for Christmas cards of your own that are either related to, you know, any of your interests. Mine was particularly related to music, but you can make a Christmas card about literally anything. I showed in my last video that I had a card that I made for one of my family that had a baby Yoda on it and it was wearing a Christmas hat and it was super cute. So literally it doesn't matter what you make your card of, just tailor it to the person that you're going to give it to, and it will be such a joy for them to have and cherish. Comment down below if you guys save all of your greeting cards that you receive. I love giving and receiving cards. I save every single card that I am given, and occasionally I will pull down the box and I will pick a card at random and I will just read it because it's something special to me. The person who gave it to me is special. The fact that they took their time to write in it to me is special, and I just love it. This time of year is such a great time to kind of exercise this giving and the practice of giving a greeting card. So I really hope that this video has inspired you to go forth and make your own Christmas greeting card or holiday greeting card, whatever holiday you celebrate, or, you know, for whatever reason that you want. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do really appreciate it. I think that this came out super splendidly well, and I am so excited to write in it and give it to my friends for the holiday. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, please consider giving it a like, thumbs up button. Please consider subscribing to this channel as I post new art and book related content every single Tuesday and occasionally on Fridays. Please consider hitting the notification bell, as this does help out this channel immensely, and I do really, truly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. I will catch you in the next one. Bye!